Hi there. Welcome to another segment of In the Spotlight with Westmont. I was going to say Weststaff because that's who we do have here today. Is Michelle Edmonds, who is the owner of Weststaff and also Personnel Plus Consulting Services. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yes,
Yeah.
Weststaff, Westmont. It's good names.
It is. They're very good names. Tell us a bit about your personal experience in human resources.
Yeah, so actually I like to always say I'm lucky. I ended up going to college and choosing a degree in human resources. I went to University of Minnesota's Business School, Carlson School of Management. I started out in marketing, but I gravitated right away towards human resources and industrial relations, and that's where I ended up and got my degree in HRIR. And then I moved straight to Montana and started, I worked for Great Harvest Franchising in Dillon, Montana, doing training and development, part of HR all over the country. So I got lucky, got a job in HR. And then when my husband got a job for Summit Aeronautics, which is now Boeing, we moved to Helena, and I got lucky to get connected with Jim Nyes, the past owner of Weststaff, and he started getting me back into the one-on-one HR consulting, and I got to do that with him. And then I bought the business from Jim and Nancy Nyes almost 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so we, it's all things HR. So I feel just lucky it's been HR.
Yeah. Okay, so a company like Weststaff, and I know there's a couple other agencies throughout Helena, but I think all of you kind of have the same goal. And what does a company like yours do?
Yeah, so staffing agencies, we want to get good people, good jobs. So that's the number one goal, and we're fortunate enough to do that with great employers like yourself. Westmont's a great place to work. And then also, of course, HR consulting for helping managers and other business owners.
So you're helping business owners, but then also somebody looking for a job would come to you as well?
Yes, that's correct. Okay. So people looking for jobs, it's our number one client as a staffing agency, and then connecting them with great employers such as yourself. And people looking for jobs apply at staffing agencies as well as look at all your other options, of course.
And what kind of recommendations would you have for someone that's looking for a job in the community?
So recommendations are, it's a great time to be looking for work, as we as employers know that unemployment rate's really low. So there are more open job positions than there are people looking for work. So I like to say it's a great time to look for a job. The number one thing is I just think be reliable, have a great attitude, and be flexible and be willing to learn new things to find the right spot for you in employment. So it's a great time to be looking for jobs.
Okay. And then conversely, what would you say is a good way for employers to attract employees with such a tight labor market?
Yeah, so it is tight, and Westmont themselves, we both work in that area. The biggest thing is I see employers, and even myself occasionally, we want to make sure to increase pay rates will help you find higher quality candidates. So I think the biggest mistake is not paying enough. And then the second thing is being flexible and finding people that are maybe not in the active job searching market to attract them into employment. And then of course being flexible with, if people are going to school, doing flexible schedules and just really focusing on what employees need and how it can meet the needs of your business.
Okay. That's good. What about common mistakes that you see that employers make with their existing employees? I've always heard that it's easier to retain an employee than go out and find a new one. How do businesses keep their existing employees?
Yeah, I think the number one is just asking that question to yourself as an employer. So Arlene's got it down. Ask, how do I keep employees? Obviously, workplace culture has a lot to do with it, having a positive environment. Just listening to employees, I think doing touch bases with employees, as I like to call it, instead of employee evaluations, which can kind of have a more negative connotation. We as employers or managers should be asking employees for constant feedback on how they like their job, anything we can improve, those sort of things.
So that's what you mean by touch base then, versus a formal review, an annual review or something.
Like look at as we want feedback from our employees, because in business we're only as good as the employees we're employing. So, and it's easier said than done, obviously, but just focusing on, and your employees have a lot of good ideas. So we call them, instead of doing exit interviews, conduct stay interviews.
Oh, interesting.
And try to do them, more
And
consistently.
How frequently? I mean, what would you recommend as far as, is it every day? I mean, you want it to be sincere, I guess.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Good point. Please be sincere, and and you care. If you're at all asking how they're doing at their job, you obviously care and are doing the right step. I see employers that do it successfully once a week, to once a month, to quarterly, to twice a year. Obviously, the more often you can do it, the better, but we live in the real world, so just as once a week to once a month to quarterly.
We always hear about employee rights, you know, and I think a lot of folks know what their rights are as an employee, but what rights do businesses have, an employer have?
Yeah, so that we do a lot with the consulting. It's really common in Montana to hear employers complain about, oh, employees have all these rights and we as employers have none. In Montana, you hear about we're not an employment at will state. We have the Wrongful Discharge Act, but the Wrongful Discharge Act was actually created by a group of employers that wanted to limit damages to employers if employees sue. So I think there's a win-win. So both people have rights, both the employer and the employee, and if you do things the right way, you mitigate those rights, but employers do have them. It just depends on the circumstance and everything.
Okay. And then there's also different rules that businesses have to follow, federal and state. How do they prioritize or figure out which rule is, takes precedent, I guess?
Yeah, that's really overwhelming.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, and confusing, because federal minimum wage is what, 7 something, and what Montana's probably going up to $8.65 an hour here coming in January. So we obviously in Montana can't pay the federal minimum wage. We pay, hopefully above minimum wage. But it just depends. You usually have to follow both, but find out the safest rule is which one protects the employee more, to go with that one. But we help people with that all the time.
And then I guess are employers required to give certain benefits?
And that's another one of those, it depends. Yes and no. So we hear nationally the talk about in America we're the only developed country that doesn't have mandated paid leave benefits. And of course that's true. And then we have ACA, so certain employers have to give health care benefits, or FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. If you have 50 or more employees on payroll for at least 20 weeks, you probably are required to provide FMLA leave to employees. So there's a lot of moving parts, but there's a way to, sell it to attract good people and to protect yourself in business too.
And so where do you see Helena's labor market heading now? Do you think it's going to get tighter?
That's what they all say nationally and in Helena. I'm an eternal optimist. Helena, we have the positive, slow, stable growth, they say about Helena. I'm not sure who they are, but right, they say. And as you see we're seeing construction everywhere, right? We see more building up around the Costco area, around the mall area. So I think we're going to see more of it, and we're seeing more private employers come in. So we'll still, I think, focus on finding good employees, but also, like you're asking the right questions. How do we keep those good employees?
Right.
Retaining is the key.
So how can a business learn more from you then?
We have a monthly newsletter that anyone can sign up for. That's just kind of for managers or employer tips. So we try to send that out once a month, and it's any topic from accommodating disabilities to FMLA updates to the minimum wage updates. So you can email me and sign up for that, or contact our office. And then things getting involved with local experts, like we have SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management, is an international nonprofit, and we have local meetings once a month, and I'm involved in that, so that's a really great resource for anyone that manages people.
Okay.
not just people that are in HR.
Okay.
So I would say that too. For
Well, very
the
good.
resource. Yeah.
Lots of good stuff. I really
Yes.
appreciate you being on with us today.
Yes,
and
thanks.
hopefully if anybody has any questions, they can get a hold of West staff and find out how to get that newsletter.
Yes, thanks,
All right,
Arlene.
thank you. And thank you for joining us today as well.